Hi, I'm Red G. York. This is a presentation on describing the organization in the grant proposal. At the completion of this presentation, you should be able to do a number of things. First of all, you should describe the organization, the applying organization in a grant proposal. I'm talking primarily here about proposals for human service programs delivered by human service agencies. You should be able to, and this would include information on the agency's type, mission, history, services, and accomplishments. The description you provide will demonstrate the agency's capacity to adequately deliver the services of the proposed program. It should also demonstrate that the agency qualifies for the grant from the funding source. This is a very important consideration. Don't apply for something you are not eligible for. Let me say something about what I would call the first rule of grant writing. Carefully follow the directions given by the funding source. See what they want in regard to the description of the organization. I'll say some things that may be a little bit different from something you'll see in the directions from the funding source. Please follow their directions. This presentation is general, so it helps you reflect on those things funding sources normally find valuable. But again, follow their directions. So you might ask, what is the main purpose of the description of your organization in the proposal? Let's hit the pause button, if you will, and look at those three options and then come back to me after you've thought about them for a moment. Okay, we have three things listed there. One is to reveal how many important people are on your board of directors. I would say that's not a main purpose of the description. How about B, to show that your agency has the capability to deliver the services proposed? Of course, that is the main purpose of the organizational description. It is not C, to show the importance of the need being met by the proposed program. That is an important part of your grant proposal, but it's not a part of your program. I'm sorry, it is not a part of your organizational description. So what of the following should be included in your description? Clear definition of the organization by name and address. Do you believe that belongs there? Yes, it does. How about this one? The type of organization. Is it a nonprofit agency serving homeless veterans, or a profit agency serving child abused children, or what? Yes, that is one of the things you would describe in your organizational description. How about the history and mission of the organization? What is your history? What is your overall mission, the main thing you exist for? Those things are, of course, important parts of your description of your organization. How about the present programs you're offering? Yes, I would say you should describe the kinds of programs you're currently offering. The funding source will want to know whether you have some experience with doing the kinds of programs that you are proposing in your grant proposal. How about your major accomplishments? I would say yes. You want them to know you are capable, a competent kind of organization. Your accomplishments will say a lot about that. So the answer really to the main question here is 6. All of the above should be included in your description of your organization. Does a new organization have an advantage? Is it more likely that a new organization will be successful in getting a grant than an existing one? By new organization here, I'm talking not about one that doesn't exist yet and is going to be created, but one that has only existed for a couple of years. I would say that a new organization like that does not have an advantage. The established organization has an advantage. What is one thing you might want to emphasize in a description of a new organization? Well, I'm going to cover that in the next slide. If the organization is new, Discuss the history of volunteer activities and accomplishments of key leaders, as well as work that has been completed on agency infrastructure, such as staffing, budget system, personnel policies, and so forth. One of the disadvantages of a new organization is that it usually takes a few years to get an infrastructure going well. So whatever you can say about your infrastructure that shows it is going well would be an advantage to you if you are dealing with a organization that is relatively new. What if you wish to use grant funds to create a new organization? You're going to start day one with grant funds to create this organization. My advice is don't do it. Funding sources need a track record of your agency to give them confidence that you can deliver the goods. So don't use a grant to create a brand new organization that's not likely going to be successful. Let's look at the type of organization that is applying for the grant. You should identify this. Is it a nonprofit organization, or a profit organization, or a governmental organization? The nonprofit organization, by the way, typically has an advantage over the other two when asking for funds from a foundation. They want to spend their money for nonprofit organizations. They don't want to contribute to your profit. And they figured that governmental organizations have the advantage of tax funds, so they should use their money for nonprofit organizations. The history of the organization. What does the funding source want to know about the history of the organization? Does it want to know that the agency has survived long enough to have community support? Yes, well, of course it does. Does it want to know the agency got started because of needs similar to those addressed by the funding source? Yes, that would be good if that is true. That would be a good thing to emphasize. So both of the above is the basic answer to the question about the history of the organization. The mission of the organization should be congruent with the major goals of the funding source. Again, if they are primarily focused on abused children, then a service for the elderly would probably not fit very well. Present programs offered, should you describe the current types of programs and services offered by this organization? Of course, yes, that is true. Is it good for your organization to have experience with the kinds of service to be implemented in the grant? That is true. So you might ask, what if it does not have this experience? Well, I would suggest that you say as much as you can about what you are doing that gives you qualifications to do the service you're going to be offering, or the program you're proposing, even though it's relatively new for the kind of service you've typically been using. So try to show the link between what you've been doing and that new kind of service. How about the major accomplishments of the organization? How should you report the main accomplishments? Should you, for example, just say you're great, bombastically proclaiming your wonderfulness to the world based on your opinion of yourself? Or should you offer evidence such as recognitions, history of collaborations with others, outcome data, and so forth? Well, I hope the answer is very, very clear to you there. It should be offering evidence. Anybody can be bombastic about how wonderful they think they are. Funding sources usually are not so wild about that. They want to see the facts. What are the facts about this? Okay, I hope this will be good for you. This is the end of my presentation.